Previously on Tom's and Friends Adventures. Henry gets into an accident with the flying kipper and is sent to crew to have an overhaul. And the other engines had to do his work. But Gordon would think otherwise. Find out next time on Tom's and Friends Adventures. Tom's and Friends Adventures. Tom's and Friends Adventures. Gordon's whistle. Gordon was cross. Why should Henry have a new shape? He hissed. He grumbled. A shape good enough for me is good enough for him. He goes gallivanting off to crew, leaving us to do his work, and comes back saying how happy he feels. It's disgraceful. And there's another thing. Henry whistles too much. No respectable engines ever whistles loudly at stations. It isn't wrong, but we just don't do it. Poor Henry didn't feel happy anymore. Never mind, whispered Percy. I'm glad you're home again. I like your whistling. Next day, Gordon was leaving the shed and he called out to Henry. Goodbye, Henry. We're glad you're with us again, but remember what I said about whistling. Later, Henry took a slow train to Edward Station. Hello, Henry, said Edward. You look splendid. I was pleased to hear your happy whistle yesterday. Thank you, Edward, smiled Henry. Shh, shh. Can you hear something? It sounds like Gordon, said Edward, and it ought to be Gordon, but Gordon never whistles like that. It was Gordon. He came rushing down the hill at a tremendous rate. He didn't look at Henry. He didn't look at Edward. He was purple in the boiler and whistling fit to burst. Well, said Edward. It isn't wrong, said Henry. Chuckled Henry, but we just don't do it. And he told Edward what Gordon had said. Meanwhile, Gordon screeched along the line. The noise was awful. People ran out of their houses. Firefighters ran to look for fires. Horses upset their carts, and all ladies dropped their parcels. At the big station, everyone held their ears. Sir Topham Hatt held his ears, too. Take him away, he bellowed, and stop that noise. Gordon puffed sadly away. He whistled as he crossed the points. He whistled on the siding. He was still whistling as the last deafened passengers left the station. Two men climbed upon Gordon and knocked a whistle valve into place. And there was silence. That night, Gordon slunk into the shed. He was glad it was empty. The other engines came in a little later. And Henry said, the others came in a little later. It isn't wrong if Henry didn't know it in particular, but we just don't do it. No one mentioned whistles. Next time on Thomas and Friends Adventures, Percy complains about wearing scarves and gets into an accident. Percy gets into an accident about scarves. Find out next time on Thomas and Friends Adventures.